Welcome, ladies. How y'all doing today? Dr. Lene, you better give me a bigger smile. Don't do the nah. I want no, not that one either. No. Y'all better give me some energy today. Yes,
Yeah.
today. This is the Fly Nubian. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I'm Constance Carter. I am your lead host for today, you guys. And today's topic is bound to stir up some big conversations. Rapper Trick Ass Daddy recently said that he don't identify as African American because he's not from Africa. His statements bring up some complex questions about identity, heritage, and self-perception within our community. Is identifying as African American meaningful or is it limiting? And how does how we see ourselves affect how we're seen by others and our community as a whole? Now, I'll be leading this conversation today with some of the best, the beautiful, the brightest, the dopest, the amazing women of Fly Nubian Money. First up, we got Dr. Alicia. She is a coach and she is a coach. Yes. And doctor. And then we got Miss Lala, who is an international real estate agent. We got Miss Brilliant Money Monetization, Madam Maven herself. You see that how I did the play on words, the onomatopoeia? You see that? Dr. Lene Javette. And then we got We Wealth Warrior, the queen of all things pop culture on the panel. Now, y'all, I want you guys to see for yourself what this crusty ass dude just said about not being African American. Let's go ahead and roll that footage and let's get to discussing.
I'm trying to figure out how Afro get in front of my motherfucking race. I ain't never been to Afro color. I never been to Africa. Afro or Africa. Never been there. I'm not from Africa. I'm born and raised in Goose, Florida. I was born in Goose, raised in Liberty City in the Poker Bean Project. I ain't never went to Africa. I ain't thinking about going there. And I heard it's a beautiful place. Yeah. And I know it's the motherland. Yes. But not my mother, not her mother, and not her mother's mother. That ain't their land. America, real true land is right here in the U.S. soils. I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just threw up in my mouth. I apologize. So Dr. Alicia, I mean, what do you say? You know, you real light skinned it. What are your thoughts about identifying with African and African Americans? Because even on here, people will say certain things about even us, right? Being on the panel, say things about us not, oh, y'all want to represent Black women. Won't you have some Black women on the panel? You know, stupid ass stuff like that. What do you think? How do you?
Okay, so we have to listen to Trick Daddy. He is saying that he has no familial ties to anybody outside of America. That in America is where he was born, and that is what he identifies with. So he's not, I mean, in that perspective, I can see that. But part of understanding who and what you are, the exploration into self-discovery, involves who are you in the ethnic sense. And that's part of your development. So in an ethnic sense, he is of African descent, right? And so I would encourage him to try to figure out a little bit more about what that means to him. What does it mean that he, considering the history of how Black people came to America, taken from the homeland, because he did recognize that that was the motherland. So he is able to recognize that's the motherland. It's a beautiful place, but he's talking about the disconnect between that word African. African is a whole continent. You don't really know what country you are necessarily from, unless he did like a DNA test and it shows where you are. So I think he's identifying with the fact that he, culturally speaking, he's not necessarily connected to any particular country in the motherland, that he's more connected to where he's from, Miami somewhere, projects, that's his cultural connection. And so that's what he's speaking of. So just summarizing what he might be trying to say.
Okay. All right, cool. The rest of you, I just want, real brief, what your thoughts are of what he had to say. So Lala, what do you think?
We all have roots somewhere. And we don't just come out of the air. Just because you don't identify with our motherland doesn't mean that's not a part of your history. That's a part of your DNA. That's a part of our skin. That's a part of our culture. That's a part of our inner being. So I totally disagree with him. And besides, America's going to label you whatever the hell they want to label you. So that's just the way that it is.
What about you, Dr. Lene?
It's such a weird place. I get I understand the concept of African American, because it goes back to our ancestors. It's rooted in where our ancestry is from. Although we personally don't identify with Africa or African, but we know that from the slave trade, we have absolutely no idea where we come from, if we're being honest, but we know most likely from Africa, right? And so I think it's a nod to our ancestors. So I don't not like it. I don't like black. Black is a color. It's not a race. American, we can go with that, but it devalues the fact that we're black. So what's the right terminology? If it's not African American, I don't like Black American because I'm not black, right? So what do we call ourselves? It's one of the things that frustrates me when we're talking about, can we all get on the same page? We can't even all get on the same page with what we're gonna call ourselves.
Whoop, whoop. Well, goddamn. All right, what you think, Athena?
You know, I gotta be careful before they start calling me Tether and then
Yeah, you better tread real lightly, because these more folks on here might have your ass.
But I think to, piggyback off of what Dr. Lene said was that I think this is points to an issue that we have with racial identity as a people. A lot of us came over here, or our ancestors came over here, whether or not your boat stopped America or the Caribbean or wherever else the boat stopped for you. And a lot of Black people in this country do not necessarily feel connected to their African roots. And I think Trick Daddy is explaining that or expressing that for himself. However, I think there's an element to me of sadness to see that disconnect, right? And then what do we call ourselves? Do we call ourselves melanated people? But we all understand different people of different races have different melanin to them, right? Hispanics have melanin. So what exactly is it? And there's also so much confusion around race, ethnicity, nationality. And to be honest, most people don't even know what those three different things mean.
Right.
And there's an overlap between all three of those things.
Yeah.
So I think because we're not rooted, where we are historically from and our ancestral land, that it's causing these issues, and it leads us to the bigger issue of us not ever being connected as a people.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why when we're so different as Afro-Americans, Black Americans, or whatever, in that when we see people who are in the Dominican, when they identify as their ethnicity and not as their race, we're like, wait, but you Black, because that's how we identify. And there's a difference between being Black and being African-American, right? Because I have friends who are Puerto Rican, you still Black, but you may not be African-American, but you're Black. And so for everyone on the panel, how do you all identify? Do you identify as African-American or as Black? When I look at my grandmother's birth certificate, her birth certificate said she was mulatto. My parents' birth certificate said they was colored. My brother's birth certificate said he was a Negro. My birth certificate said I was Black. My kids' birth certificate said they African-American. Guess what I am? All of them. What about y'all? What about you, Dr. Lene?
I go back and forth between African, when you're filling out paperwork or you're doing something like that, it says African American or it will say Black. So I kind of go back and forth between the two. If someone were to ask me, I would probably say African American. I'm an American with roots from Africa. That's probably what I would say. I do not like to call myself a color. I'll wait till you come back around. I have something I want to add to this whole conversation, but I'll wait till you get everybody else's description first.
All right. What about you, Dr. Alicia? What do you identify as?
We always run into this when I teach my research class, because we have to get background demographics on people. And race is Black, right? And race is socially constructed. We can talk about that, okay? But in terms of ethnicity, you can put African American. And I just think that I want to comment a little bit about the Caribbean versus African American. First of all, sometimes there's a lot of shame about your ethnic heritage. And so, you know, some people may not want to identify with their race because maybe they don't have the type of pride. Maybe they're disconnected from the rich history of Africans. Like when I went to Africa and I learned about all the beautiful things that Africa has to offer, it's a sense of pride in that because I am genetically connected to the motherland. So I have a sense of pride. So when I say I'm African American, it's something that I'm proud of, right? So then when I lived in Florida, I used to live in Tallahassee, and I had a friend who was from Jamaica, and she pointed out to me, she said, "You see that car with that big Jamaica flag on it?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "They're putting that on their car because they want to differentiate themselves. They want to let everybody know that they're not African American, that they're Jamaican American." Like, she made that distinction. And I said, "Are you serious?" Her name is Nina. I said, "Nina, do they really do it?" She said, "Yeah, I think that they do that. They want to put what a Caribbean country that they're from when they're driving around Florida." I only saw it in Florida. I don't see it anywhere else. But she said that was to separate. So I think that's just really interesting what you wish and hope to identify with. Because to me, when I see people from the Caribbean, I just think we all the same to me. You know, we all are, I like to say, connected at the hip. And I do a lot of work with people from Africa and people who are from Caribbean, and I feel at home in that culture. So I don't know. It's just really a fascinating thing to try to, like, the confusion that's left over from slavery. We're a people without a country, you know, the separation from the motherland and what it did to us. Our culture was basically rooted into African tradition, but also partly because of slavery. So, you know, we are a little bit confused because our history was cut off.
Good. What about you, Lala? How do you identify?
I'm gonna throw a kink in it. I'm
Come
black
on.
and black. But
Ooh.
my mama on my birth certificate is white, and my father is Negroid. Okay, so I be personally of blackity black. My black is beautiful. Thank you.
So you don't identify as African American?
I don't care either one. I really don't.
Right.
They all look at us the same anyway. It doesn't matter to me. I know what I am in my heart.
Amen. What about you, Athena?
So I usually just go by black, or whenever I had to fill out anything here, I've been African American. I am Jamaican as well, and my birth certificate is a Jamaican birth certificate on there. I actually need to take a look and see what it says on there, because everyone was going through the classification. I was like, I wonder what it says on it. So I have to go to my dad's house and take a look at what it says on there. But I have no problem with African American, black, Jamaican, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, I've always said on the show before that I don't always think about race, or race is not the first thing that I think about. And I think growing up in a country where pretty much everyone is black, I had that luxury of not having to think about race until I had to move here. Right. And I had to think about it. So I think that also plays into that.
Have you guys all taken the ancestry DNA? So do you know your makeup? Has anybody taken the African ancestry DNA? So you know where your tribe is? I've done both.
I need to do African ancestry.
Fascinating.
Well, what is it? Tell us. What is it? Do you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Sierra Leonean. I'm from the Igbo tribe, I think. And I'm two. So what happens is they do your mothers, because when you get into the fathers, especially for African Americans, it gets diluted because you got slave masters' blood in you, right? So they do the maternal. They go all the way back to the maternal line. And Gina Page, she always goes to the Power Networking Conference, but she has a company called African Ancestry DNA, and it's actually different from regular Ancestry DNA because they have more data from Africa. So when like on the regular Ancestry DNA, it's like a lot of Nigerian stuff like that. I'm not even Nigerian. I'm Balanta people living in Guinea-Bissau, and Mindi and Timni people living in Sierra Leone. That's where my tribe is from. So they have more data from Africa than Ancestry DNA is. So they're able to really kind of center in and see where your DNA is from, where your tribe is from. It's fascinating. But Ancestry is also fascinating because I've met, long lost cousins and, stuff that people didn't, know that, they wasn't supposed to know, all that kind of stuff pop up too. Anyway, we'll talk more about it when we come back from a commercial.
Hey, if you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I am the proud producer of this show. So I hope that every day when you join us, you leave a little smarter than you came, because that's the point. Otherwise, why are you watching? So if you want to receive notices for when we go live, Fly Nubian Money goes live every single day. That's Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you don't know, now you know. All you have to do is text the word Queens. That's Queens. That's Queens to 87948. That's 87948. That's Queens to 87948. Yes? If you want.
So Queens to 87948. Y'all in the audience, Queens to 87948. And while we're having this discussion, I'm interested in seeing what because I know most of the people on here are, I don't even know what to call y'all because I don't want to offend y'all. But what do you identify as? What's your identity? I hear a lot of people talking about, well, I ain't from Africa anyway. My people are Native American and we from America. And I think for me, it's part of that whole self-hatred, thing where they don't want to be from Africa. They only want, and I know it's people in the comments that are saying the same thing. I'm not from Africa. My people are Native American and we're from here. I even heard the rapper Waka Flocka say that he's not African. His people are Native American. And then I hear people saying, well, my great grandmother told me we was Indian. But then when you do the DNA, because DNA don't lie, it tells you exactly what it is. What happens is most of you are mixed with European and not necessarily Native American, but somebody then told y'all that your great grandfather was Native American. And so you've taken on that. But what do you think about, people not wanting to just claim Africa at all, saying that they have no roots to Africa? What do you think? Is it a self-hatred thing, Dr. Lene?
I don't think it's a self-hatred thing. I think it's a uneducated thing. I think it's what's the right word? Antiquated. I think that as we have gotten further away from slavery, we have gotten further away from slavery. So we don't want to be tied to anything that has to do with Africa. We don't want to be tied to anything that has to do with slavery. We don't want to be tied to anything that implies anything negative. I was born here. I'm an American. We want to be present. Is that self-hatred? I don't think it's self-hatred. I think it might be more ignorance than self-hatred. So what I was looking up is, why is the terminology for Black people African American, but white folks is called Caucasian? How come they're not called white folks? So Caucasian is a term used to describe people with origins in Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, which we say European or we say Caucasian. We don't say white Americans. We don't say European Americans. We just say American, or we say Caucasian. Why then do we say Black or Black American or African American? And we were actually born and raised here. How come Black people don't have our own name that's not African American or just, I don't know, Caucasian? I can't even think of a dope name that we could call ourselves that's just a name. Melanesians or something. I don't know. That's too close to Asian, so we can't be Melanesians. But so you know what I'm saying? We don't have. Why is color and or reference to hue in our title, and it's not in any others that I can think of?
Because they're cave people from the Caucasoid Mountains. But
it does say that too. It can also. It does say they're from the term originated in the 1700s when scholars believe Europeans came from the Caucasus Mountains. That is the truth.
Mm-hmm. They're cave people. That's why. Athena, what do you think?
What was the question again?
Shit, I forgot. Oh, the people who rather say I'm Native American or I'm Indian. I'm not from Africa at all.
Listen, however, you want to identify as is your right to choose, whatever delusion you want to live under, whether or not you call yourself Black, African American, Jamaican American, whatever. if you did a swab in your mouth, it will link you back to some kind of region in Africa.
They say no.
So,
They say
so,
no. They not.
so
They
you
not
know,
from Africa.
even, and I know a lot of people want to do the whole native. There were Black people in America and all this other stuff as well, right? However, we are all DNA connected. We're all like Black people. We're all African ancestry somewhere, right? So I think that is what is more important. I see a lot of nonsense in the chat. Miss D's saying that, if I'm Jamaican, I'm you not us because your family had to immigrate here. You not African American or Black, you Jamaican American, this, that, and the third. Listen, I don't want to hear no FBA ADOS nonsense today, right? Because I don't have time to stomp on you hoes today, to be honest with you. My patience is very thin, right? Because I know more about Black history than most of y'all in this chat. And I've done more to educate people on Black history than most of y'all in this chat. So anyway, what I want to say is that I also notice a colorism thing within this aspect, right? Because I tend to notice the people who take these positions tend to be darker skinned, like Trick Daddy. I notice people who are lighter skinned Black people or even biracial, they will tend to be more pro-Black and want to align themselves more so with their Black ancestry. And I always find it like odd to me that people like Trick Daddy, who, listen, we can run the clip again, but his face is almost blended into his shirt, will have all these issues about being African and having African ancestry. Now, I do live in South Florida. Trick is from Miami, Florida. There's a lot of Caribbean Blacks. There's a lot of more so Caribbean Blacks than African, like Nigerian and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Trick's mom is from South Carolina. I don't know what his ancestry is, but clearly, even if you're from South Carolina was one of the biggest slave hubs where they were dropping people off for slavery. So your ass ancestry in Africa.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Alicia, because I think when we talk about because now we battling over who was most oppressed and who, and when we separate ourselves, it feels like it's part of this colonization, this whole idea of colonization. We've been first we were physically colonized. Now we're mentally colonized because now we want to just separate ourselves from other Black people when we really do have the same DNA in us. Is this part of like self-hatred? Is that colonization? Like, where does this come from? Somebody in the chat saying that she's not really Black because she had to immigrate over here, but they went through slavery just like us. Why? What's with this whole idea of the separation that we're seeing?
That's an interesting question. I think you need to pay attention to the similarities in the cultural origins, but you also need to pay attention to what's specific to Jamaica, for instance. Jamaica has its own language, patois. They have their own cuisine. And their language and the cuisine is closely tied to Africa, right? Even here in America, you got the Geechee sound. Lord, I don't know what I was in Mississippi. I don't know what nobody was saying. It was language that was closely tied to Africa. So it's really what you see is a disbursement of how the language, the culture is evolved. I mean, you got okra, you have food, you have culture, you have the sense of family, familial. All of that cultural piece is derivative of the continent of Africa, where there's an abundance. You got to remember that agriculture and climate has a lot to do with culture. So that's why non-whites tend to be very communal. They're not individualistic. That's part of the culture that you see that weaves right on through. I always talk about, I spent time in Guyana. I feel closer to people from Guyana than I do with people right here in America.
Really?
So in terms of their culture.
In Ghana in Ghana or Guyana?
Guyana.
Oh, South America.
South America.
Okay.
And I felt a sense of belonging that I never feel here. So, it's part, and I just want to say, like, I don't know where Trick Daddy has been in his development. You would think at 50, he'd be a little more evolved. Maybe this is why we don't need to take critical race theory out of schools, Maybe we need to keep the Department of Education intact. Hello. Maybe we're going to hear more of these kind of statements that's bizarre, right? Because we're not educated. But I just really wonder why this denial. Is it denial or is it lack of awareness? And if it's lack of awareness, how are you going to connect with who and what you are in terms of your ethnic identity? How are you going to connect and understand who you are in a heritage? Your heritage is part of who you are. And if you deny that, then you're denying pieces of yourself. And I don't know how that's helpful in terms of mental health. Part of finding out who you are is exploring yourself in terms of your gender, in terms of your ethnicity. That is healthy identity development, is having that exploration, being able to dive into your cultural heritage and understanding where the lineage and where that's from so that you can integrate it into being an American at the same time. That integration process is really when you know your identity has been solidified. So maybe he's going through an identity crisis. I don't know. At 50 something, you would think people would have explored those things. So you have to have the ability to kind of reflect and incorporate in terms of finding out who you are. Who's Trick Daddy? Who is he?
He's a trick and he's somebody daddy. So after we come back from commercial, Lala, I do want to ask you, because there's so much separation, and you being a person of mixed race, mom is white, daddy's black, but you were raised in a black household, but there's so much division, right? And that's also a form of white supremacy, of way we've been conditioned, not only within our culture, but then you look at the diaspora where you see this level of separation, right? But in this climate, we're going to have to start working together. We're going to have to start identifying and being on code and being one. How do we do that going forward? Because it's needed now more than ever. I want to discuss that when we come back from commercial. Okay. I want you to touch on that.
You want to grow your money and not blow your money, as Constance says. Check us out at flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, programs, videos, resources. In 2024, there's no reason to be broke when there's information all around us. So get your money right. FlyNubianMoney.com.
Come on, all together, all together, all together. Yes, yes. Come on, Dr. There we go. There we go. But this whole idea of this separatist identity that we have going on, and the thing that keeps pitting us against each other, is a form of white supremacy. What do we do, Lala?
We need to stop trying to separate our own kind. The thing is, what bothers me the most when I am told that I'm not Black. Listen, baby, I'm not the one who decided to get together and make me. It wasn't like I had a choice in the matter. And to be very honest, my birth mother was definitely white, but the reason she left her family is because they were so racist. And that was not what she believed in her heart. She's had 18 kids, okay? And they all mixed with something. She left, yes, I said 18. She left me with my aunt, who was my dad's mom. And so I was raised in the Black culture. I know what I am. It doesn't mean that I don't dismiss that part of my mother's life, but I know what I was raised in. I know what my roots are. And so I embrace those as well. I have had it from both sides. I have had white people tell me, well, you can't be in the white side of the group. And then terrible times is when Black people tell me that I don't belong there either. I can't come to the club. I can't come to the Black Panther meetings. Well, you have to really realize that you're separating those of us who didn't have a choice in the matter. And so therefore, I'm not a threat. I'm a part of this family, not an ally. Not an ally. I am a part of this. And so we need to stop separating each other for things that we can't control and get on all accords. Now, here's an interesting fact that I want to share with you. I have a cousin who's about 5 years younger than I am. Same situation. However, she grew up with her white mom. So she identifies as white because that's how she was raised. She was skiing in Aspen, those type of things. So you have to understand that all of this doesn't necessarily mean the color of your skin. It is a lot to do with your identity and how you were brought up. And that's just how I feel about it. And just recently down in Florida, when they gave me new license, girlfriend looked at me and said, okay, she white. My black husband standing right beside me. Oh, she white. Okay, Caucasian. I said, no, ma'am, I am black. You should have seen her turn red. You don't just assume what somebody is. You can't go off of looks because we come in all shades of
That
green.
part. That part. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, you know, my mama is fully black, probably your complexion, and was born with red hair. And she was treated very differently growing up, but you know, she's still black. She, in fact, when we look at her ancestry DNA, she got 80% African. My dad is dark skin. He got 70% African. So it's really interesting. I mean, we're all in all different shapes and sizes and colors. Like that's just how we are. I do want to look at some of these graphics because look at the term colored. It's a prevailing term from the mid to late 19th century. So this is how we've evolved into where we are today. The mid to 19th century, we were called colored up until the civil rights era. And then we were Negro. And this term picked up steam towards the end of the 19th century and continued, ultimately replacing the word colored. And people actually get offended when you say colored. But as its term, Negro took on negative connotations and faded in use after Black leaders advocated alternate names in the 1960s. And then we became, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud. Initially favored by radical and militant blacks in such groups as the Black Muslims and the Black Panthers, but eventually it became mainstream. I love being black, y'all. I love it. And then we were Afro-American. And it was reportedly introduced by Malcolm X with his establishment of the organization Afro-American Unity in 1964. And then we mosey on down to the 90s when a group of Black people, including the Reverend Jesse Jackson, called for African American. Now we are sophisticated. We don't say we Black in certain areas. We got to say we are African American. And this is a deeper than just name recognition. Black tells you about skin color, is what he said, and what sides of town you live on. African American evokes discussion of the world. And so that's how we've gotten here. So what does that mean for us? Like, if do you get offended by any of those names? Do any of you guys get offended by if somebody called you colored? Oh, that little color girl. I've heard white people say color gal. Do you get offended if somebody calls you Negro? I call somebody a Negro and they got offended.
Don't call
you guys,
me colored.
no colored?
No.
Why you don't like colored?
Because where I grew up in Kentucky, that was just as bad as calling me a nigga.
Really?
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
I didn't know that. Interesting. See, you learn something new every day. I had no idea. Any of you guys? Any of those names offend you? Colored, Negro, Dr. Lene, Athena, Dr. Alicia?
I mean,
I'm fine if you call me
color
Dr.
don't
Lene. You can call me that. Just don't call me.
Don't call you gal.
Yeah, don't call me gal. Don't call me colored.
I mean,
Definitely
well,
don't call me Negro.
back
Don't call me
then it
nigger.
was okay. It was okay to say it back then because it was back then. But we've transitioned. I mean, I think that's the thing, is to understand this history of these terms and what it meant in those times. Part of it is just being able to look at the history in its totality and to integrate it into your life. Like, who are you? Okay, you're multi-race. People who are multi-race, they have to take a look at that and identify with all the different races that they are, and then integrate it into themselves, that there are all of these other things, that their identity is complex. And that complexity means that you need to explore all the different aspects of who and what you are.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of, not just in terms of race, but in terms of your socioeconomic status, in terms of everything about yourself, what it means to be a woman. What does it mean to be Black? What does it mean to be of this socioeconomic status? All the different aspects that make up who and what you are. It's important to explore those things so that you know who you are. You have a sense of self and say, okay, this is what I am, and not feel ashamed about it, and be proud of who you are, because that's what makes you unique. Like, all of us are unique, and we have unique gifts that we bring to the table, and a lot of what we bring to the table has to do with our background. Our ethnic heritage is a very important part of who and what we are. I know Italian Americans and Greeks and people who are Asian, all the different Asian cultures, East Indian, all of these different aspects and of who you are and how you express yourself. You have to let people develop in terms of their identity.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to this other video, because here on the other side you have somebody saying, "Yo, you know, even though your mama and you might not be from Africa, your roots are in Africa." I can actually go back because I've done the research for me, and my grandmother's father, straight African. So when you talk about that's so far removed, that's my mom's grandfather. It's from his parents. He's born right out of slavery, but his parents are from Africa. So for people to have that disconnect is just so weird to me. But let's look at this video where this young lady talks about you know, what our connection is to Africa and why we should be connected.
All right, you were born right here in America. That doesn't change who your ancestors are. And as old as you are, you should know this. Why are y'all going so hard to diss Africa? What has the motherland, the beautiful motherland, done to you? And look at your skin. You are chocolate. You are chocolate. All right? Be proud to be black. Be proud of your ancestors who came from Africa, your African ancestors, and be proud of your African American culture. You don't have to go on some weird tangent about how you're not African. No. It just shows you don't know history. You don't know who you are. And you have a problem with it. Y'all have a problem with who you are. And I blame colonization. They have.
What do you think? Do you blame colonization for that, Dr. Lene?
Do I blame colonization for the fact that we as a people do not know who we are, what to call ourselves? No, not really. I don't blame colonization. No.
What do you think it came from?
I think it came from, I think that it is, I think the slave masters were smart. They kept us separate. They stripped us of our ancestry. They stripped us of our roots, and we're lost. We don't know, right? People don't know unless you take. Let's take the DNA test out of the mix. If you have no DNA test, we're just here in America. We don't know where we come from from slavery. And we landed here in America. So outside of that, we have no insights into our background, where we come from, who we are, where our ancestors come from. I think the reason why other cultures come here and they're okay with Asian American and Greek American, Italian American, because they know their ancestry, they know their roots, they know that their great great grandmother was Italian, they know that their great great grandmother was Greek, they know that their great great grandmother was Hispanic. We don't have that unless you do something like a DNA test. Without a DNA test, most folks, I'm going to assume, this is an assumption, you could tell me in the chat if I'm wrong, most folks without DNA tests probably can go back 2 to 3 generations, maybe 4, but probably 2 to 3 generations. And 2 to 3 generations is probably slavery. But even at that time, nobody's probably talking about, this is where I came from. Make sure that my great grandchildren know. This is how we got here. This is who your great 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 grandfather was. This is what your great 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 grandfather did. This is where your great 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 grandfather came from. We don't have those stories. We don't know. Even though we're getting DNA tests that can tell us based on our blood, we don't have the stories. How did your great 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 grandfather get here? How did you get here? Who was sold where? We don't have anything about our historical past. Sometimes we'll have like a family tree, but even that doesn't tell you where you come from. So,
but Dr. Lene, basically what you said is you just negated your answer, because that is colonization. That's what happened. Everything that you said was due to us being colonized by the Caucasoid people. That's the reason.
The Caucasus Mountain people.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
then, yeah.
why we're in the position that we're in. I mean, what do you think? Do you think who agrees with this lady and who doesn't agree with this lady? Anybody on the panel that doesn't agree with it? Dr. Alicia? Yes.
Listen, before colonization, Black people, dark people lived in Africa. It was peaceful.
Are you sure? Because
there was an abundance. And actually, I mean, I've read books. They came before Columbus. We all read those books, right?
Of course.
But what was happening in Africa? It was peaceful. Actually, yes, it was. It was.
Didn't they have wars?
Men and women. Wars happened post colonization, right? When white people came and separated everybody out, made countries, divvied everyone out, because that's what they do. They carve things out. They pit people against each other. I mean, a long history in Africa about what colonization has done to an entire group of people, just terrorized all of us, okay? And not only was it peaceful, but African women and African men, they were together on a lot of things. It wasn't all of this patriarchy and all, that's whiteness.
It is.
So not only did it separate and cause division in Africa, but it also caused division among genders. It caused division among different tribes. I mean, it really wreaked havoc in Africa. We just took people and started displacing them around for the benefit of greed and income, and the entire economic foundation of this world is because of colonization. And Europeans, British coming, and the Dutch, and all these individuals just using free labor to help build their own greed of materialism and all of this. I mean, all of the what we see as problems with Black people in America, we can tie that directly back to slavery and colonization. It is probably hands down the evil thing. And the thing with people of African descent, because there was such an abundance, we're just loving people and we're inviting, because all of that sort of viciousness and hatred, that's
not in us. It's not in us. Yeah,
but we are just. Yeah. I mean, it really. I mean, it will be forever before we are able to build ourselves back to what we used to be. Yeah. Okay, what we used to be. Yeah. And it is an amazing piece. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you can go through history and see how this happens. When white people came to Africa with their guns and their Bibles, that was the end of it for us.
Y'all, let me tell you something. Hey, listen, we can unpack that all day. We got to go to break. But you know, something that really grinded my gears right before I got on here is I saw a video of your newly elected president that said that he was going to give white people reparations for the whole DEI, that they were, what do you say? Because of equity, they suffered. So he was going to find the institutions and take their endowments, and he was going to give it to the people who suffered as a result, which were white people. Were going to get restitution because of this whole idea of equity. Came out of his mouth. He said that in his speech. And that's part of what a lot of these people who are on here, who was anti-Kamala, who don't want a Black woman as president. This is what he's saying. This is part of his dismantling of the Department of Education. This is what he wants to do, but that's part of that history that he wants to take away out of the schools. But we'll talk about it when we come back.
All right.
Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. Yes. We are on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, you can listen to us. All you have to do is search Fly Nubian Money and we will appear. All of our episodes. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating and review so other people that come along and are looking for a good show to watch, they'll follow us too. If you are interested in being on Fly Nubian Money, sorry, I don't have any spaces. I'm just playing. If you are interested in being a queen or a king on Fly Nubian Money for the day, please reach out to me. I'm at info@realvirtual.net. That's info@realvirtual.net. Also, if you need help with your business, go ahead and send me an email for that too. Okay. I've said enough. Now back to the show.
Lord Jesus. Global Pioneer said, I blame colonization and Black people for not reading and believing what their grandparents told them, because they grandparents, they knew everything. They couldn't read or write, but they knew they was Indian and they knew they was from America, right?
How can you blame victims?
So the whole idea.
Think about what you're saying. Are people even using what's between their two ears? Think about what you're saying. How can you blame people for being stolen from their country, taken against their will?
Well, but what a lot of people say though, Dr. Alicia, is that, well, my grandma said I was Indian, so I believe that my people came from here and they didn't come from Africa. And that's the whole, again, the conditioning, because they believe that Africa is bad and they believe that white supremacy is good. But what do you think, Athena, about the whole idea of the Department of Education being destroyed and him saying that he's going to find these institutions and give reparations to the victims of this?
Well, that is funny. If anybody deserves reparations in this country, it's Black people or African people or whatever we're deciding to call ourselves today. We deserve reparations more than anything. But look at us. Look at us even right now. Look at us even in the chat.
Come on.
We can't organize or galvanize ourselves to even agree on what to be called, much less take our energy, time, and resources to command and demand and campaign for the reparations that we do deserve as people. So this is why we can never get anything done or make headway or push forward, because we get so caught up in the details, the minutia, which really doesn't make any significant difference either way, whichever way you want to call yourself, that we don't get to move forward on the bigger issues that impact us all, right? And I know and understand why people may have different views, right? Because some people say if you say African American, you negate or diminish your right to be here, your claim to be here as your homeland, right? And I don't think that is a sentiment of anybody on this panel to say that we don't have a right to be here or claim this as our homeland or anything like that. However, you must know and understand that your ancestry is important. And I charge, and sometimes my frustration is that we are so caught up on these small racial details that we don't ever focus on or tread or make headway on the bigger issues with this election, with what is happening within this country with immigration and everything, right? And I can speak to that because I'm an immigrant. My fear is what Dr. Claude Anderson said originally, that we are becoming a permanent underclass and we are losing in the racial wealth gap. We're losing influence. Oof. And we will always be in the bottom of the barrel fighting like crabs because we don't have the gumption to put petty ethnicity and I'm FBA and I'm ADOS and I'm immigrant and I'm this, I'm that, and the third, to focus on things like reparations or things that will actually truly be beneficial to all of us.
Right, Athena, and that's so important. But this is part of white motherfucking supremacy, causing us to divide and conquer. Like, this is part of Willie Lynch's letter to the slave master. Whether it was correct or whether it was real or not, this is what we have taken this on. And so just like you said, we get so caught up in the dumbass minutia. I'm gonna be called this and we can't do this, that these people have there is a psychological warfare and a financial warfare against Black people that's getting ready to come down the pipe. And if we don't get our shit together and stop worrying about this bullshit of who we are, what we call ourselves, then we are going to get left behind. But I do want to go to Dr. Boyce's BFF, who was a groomsman at your wedding, and he had a little something to say.
I've never considered myself an African American, never called myself an African American. The deal is, America think they slick. Every 20, 30 years, they want to switch up the name for black folks. They start us off with the N-word, then they go with the coloreds, and then they come to Negro, and then they come to African American. I guess they always switching it up on us. Like, that didn't work. You know what? I mean, our names have been changed more often than Diddy's name has been changed. Like, what is it? I'm cool, man. I'm cool with American because this is the land that I was born in. This is the land that my ancestors cultivated. This is the land and the place that my ancestors built. Only 6% of slave ships made it to North America. The others went to the Caribbean. Here's something to think about. How come white folks don't call themselves European Americans? I mean, they are.
And then when you think about it, he said only 6% of the slave ships came to America. So we over here in the comments fighting over who struggled, who had the worst struggle. Y'all ain't Americans. 'Cause we all came from slavery. But what do you think about that, Dr. Lene? What do you think about what he said?
So I apologize. The best thing I heard that he said was, "We change our names more than Diddy does." And it was just, I'm sorry, that's literally what I walked away with, because that fool has changed his names a gazillion times. What I would say is, if you really think about it, all the times that the names were changed, we didn't change these names. These are political assignments. These are politics. These are people who didn't ask us what we think or ask us what we want to be called. And so I think we're going to have this problem for forever. I don't think that this issue will ever be resolved because everyone feels like they are from someplace else, or they only want to go back so far. I don't think we're ever going to come to a place, no matter what the name is, no matter if we vote on it and the majority wins, like there's no point in time where we are going to agree on what we should be called, because everybody has a different opinion. And it's one of the reasons why I pray that I'm wrong. We will never be on the same page. If we can't just get on the same page of who we are as a community, as a people, how are we ever going to get on the same page with anything else? The basis of who we are, of our choices, of our decisions, of how we move, of what we think, is grounded in our culture, is grounded in how we come together, is grounded in how we unify. And if we can't unify on who we are, how are we going to unify anything else?
Drop the.
It's sad.
I just dropped the mic for you. I dropped. I don't know if y'all
it's
saw
sad.
That.
So if you see my face like this, it's because there's no resolve, and it's sad because it's literally, it's not the thing that holds us back, but it's a major part of what holds us back and moving forward.
Right. No, I mean, no, real. That is one of the realest things, and we got to be smarter than this. All we doing is playing into what they fed us all these years. Lala, what do you think about what brother Willie D said about his opinion about us not being from Africa?
I think we need to stop worrying about that right now, because honestly, we are in some serious danger right now. The problem is, the longer they can keep us in turmoil and keep us fighting amongst ourselves, they're always going to control the puppet strings, until we decide that we don't give a flying about what they think about us, or what they want to label us, or where they want to put us, or how they want to take us out of history, or how whatever. We have a problem. The problem is not us if we stop it from being us. I mean, these comments that I'm seeing today have been like just pit of my stomach. We're arguing about something that does not matter. Do you know what Project 2025 is? Did you not hear what Constance just say is getting ready to happen? If we do not pull our resources and get together on one accord, that's the problem. That's when things are going to be snatched from you, because right now you do have bootstraps, and we have bootstraps together, and we have unity if we choose to. But all these comments I'm seeing today, I don't see no unity there. And it makes me upset.
Then they about to have reparations for whites. That's a goddamn shame. And we arguing over, I'm black, I'm FBA, you're not black. My struggle was different. Slave ships still came from the same place, came to these different islands, and we are what we are, and they looking at us exactly the same. Dr. Alicia, I know you got something you want to say.
I always got something to say. I think that the shift in the names is a reflection of the shift in identity and a shift in developing. We're all developing, trying to figure out who we are, making sense of a group of people who've been traumatized for several hundreds of years, stripped of everything of our identity. And this is our way of trying to establish an identity, to try to establish some sense of who we are, because we've been so disconnected from who we truly are. And what are we going to do? We got to survive in America. So part of the survival mechanism is clinging on to whiteness.
Oof.
That's part of survival. Part of survival is, okay, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. That's a survival technique. Yeah, I'm going to, I'm going to take on everything that Donald Trump has to say, because I know that it's easier to do that than to resist, because I'm tired of resisting. It is a survival mechanism to just go along with things. So we have to understand it as that. And, there's always going to be a critical mass of people who aren't going to be on board. And, that's okay. It doesn't take everybody to bring this thing forward. It takes a critical mass to be conscious, so to speak, so that we can start looking at the unique issues. Black people in America, not like the Caribbean countries, I will say, but all of us in America, we're unique. We're unique individuals. We were born and bred here. So in a sense, I can hear what people are saying. We're descendants of slaves are unique because of what it did to us psychologically, economically, physically, just all of that. It changed us. So maybe we are the chosen, promised. Maybe we are the significant
20
group of people. What is it called? The chosen ones? What is
chosen
that?
People,
Maybe
God's chosen people. We are, because
we're a new breed in and of ourselves. So
we are lost.
How do we make sense of all of that? How do we start figuring out, coming out of slavery, not being, trying to put ourselves back together? We need to have a little more grace for this development, because all of us are trying to survive in Miami projects. What the hell? How you gonna talk to me about Africa when I'm trying to make it in the projects, trying to eat, trying to grow up? I ain't got listen, Africa ain't coming and feeding me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to feed myself. So it makes sense, right?
But you think about this. We've been in this country, 400 years as of 1919. Some of y'all don't believe it in the comments, but our people have been here since 1619. So we just made 400 years in 2019. And we've been emancipated for about 150, has it been 150 years? 1865 to, yeah. So we've been here 400 years. Slavery lasted longer than our freedom. And so there's a lot of undoing historically when we look at what's the number that's been done on us as a people. And that's the reason. And then you have, so you really only have 50 years of kind of freedom, because then you had Jim Crow, and then you had black codes, and then you had, slavery by another name, which was the 13th Amendment, putting black people in mass incarceration of African Americans, like all of those things that have just been warfare. And now we're seeing even more. We're seeing this man saying, look, not only are we ain't giving you motherfuckers reparations, but we're going to give them to the white people whose feelings have been hurt because they had to learn about Black history.
Oh, it's the song. Thank you for letting me be myself. That's how white people feel right now. Yeah. Thank you. I now have green light to just be myself now.
They are able to step into their white supremacy, which has been on mute for the last 20, 30 years. But I do want to get your final thoughts, because I know we got to get out of here. Miss Athena, I don't just want to always talk about the problems, because these are the things that divide us. And if we see, like, we got some, and I haven't even looked at the comments because y'all getting on my goddamn nerves, but these are things that are dividing us as a people. And I really want to talk about what we can do as a solution, because we need it more than ever right now. Athena, we'll start with you.
Is this also final thoughts? So
Yes.
the solution is that we need to focus on what we need to do. I'm going to piggyback off of Big Mac's comment. I'm going to let everyone else figure it out for me. I got bigger fish to fry. And people, we do have bigger fish to fry. Okay, Constance was saying how Trump providing white people reparations because of DEI. And we are over here arguing about what is Black, African American, Jamaican American, Indigenous, ADOS, FBA. This is a lot of confusion. You know what color matters the most? Here is green, the American dollar. So for those of you who are interested in getting your money up, you can go to my website, wewealthwomen.com. I have 2 events coming up, from idea to income. So that will help you with AI and how to launch your business. And the Wealthy Woman Shift. So that's specifically for women who are interested in, increasing their money, their relationships, and their power. We need to focus on the things that are going to benefit us and move ourselves forward, instead of having this race war, culture war between ourselves and distracting us from us headed down the road of being a permanent underclass. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and founder of We Wealth Women. You can find me at We Wealth Women on all social media platforms and listen to the We Wealth Women podcast.
Good shit, good shit, good shit. Dr. Lene, what is the solution? Because I'm tired of these Negroes in the comments fighting about some bullshit. What's the solution, lady?
I literally do not have one other than make focus. Other than focus, there are other things that we need to be dealing with, other things that we need to be focused on besides what to call ourselves. Call yourself whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you, however you identify, however you want to name yourself. Go for it. Let's get on to some other stuff that is actually. Let me rephrase that. Not that it's not important. I don't want to say that it's not important. Who we are, how we show up, what we believe about ourselves, that is very important. I do not think or believe that we're going to be able to do it as a community. And that's why I'm saying let's move on. Because we're too individual. There's too much individualism and thinking individually for us to come to a community decision. So let me say it that way. Therefore, I think we need to worry about the bigger fries, like we talked about. Y'all's president that's in the office now, reparations, if he does really give them to the Caucasoids. Like there's just other things that we need to be focusing on that we can probably come together around and support. And so I think we focus on that. I think that that's the solution. Focus on the stuff, focus on the things that we actually can see some impact and we can make an influence on. I'm Dr. Lene Javette. You can find me at I am Dr. Lene Javette on all social media platforms.
She said he gonna get a reparation to the Caucasoids. Girl, you crazy. Dr. Alicia, what is the solution? Please help us.
Let's see, there's an African quote called, there's no knowing of thyself than to know thyself. I think what I want to say is you need to know yourself. A Native American proverb, it's in my office. Those who want to know the world need to learn about themselves. And the people who don't know themselves are often misled. So that's the thrust of the conversation. Know yourself, learn about your history, explore, read books. There's a whole body of information all about ethnic identity, all about knowing who and what you are, all about learning about African history. We all need to learn about African history, African American history. Let's dive right back into all of that so that we can come out with a good sense of ourselves so that we're not misled. And if you're interested in learning about who you are on the personal level, as well as collectively, you can contact me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
Good shit, Dr. Alicia. Good shit, good shit, good shit. Lala, what is the solution, sis?
The solution is to stop letting them divide us. We know what's coming. We cannot help ourselves or the next generation if we don't take an interest in our own children. So how we continue to move forward is to watch out what's coming and to take one under your wing. You don't have to take a whole colony of them if you don't have time, but if you've got a niece, a nephew, or even a next door neighbor that has a younger child, you need to start educating them now, because what they're going to get in the schools is not what's good for them. So we have to get back on the Black Panther One Accord. They left a great blueprint. Of course, America didn't let them stay around long, but that doesn't mean that the principles are still not there. So make sure that you not only know yourself, but you pass down your history to another generation. And you can find me all on my social media platforms and a lot of free material at bit.ly/Laura Key Info.
Good shit, sis. We got to educate our young ones. We have to. I'll say this, in 1955, J. Edgar Hoover said the biggest threat to America was what? It's Negro unity. It's Black unity. Is the Black Messiah. That's when we seen organizations like the Black Panther being birthed. That's when we seen Martin Luther King at his height. That's when we seen Malcolm X. That's when we seen Black unity. And they did everything they could to destroy our unity. They did COINTELPRO, where they destroyed our Black leaders. They went in and they killed leaders like Fred Hampton for no reason. They put crack in our communities. And then they had the mass incarceration, which has been going on since since after slavery, right? So we know that there is a war. There is a intentional war against Black people. Donald Trump's election, his landslide, if it was actually really real, is indicative of what they think and how they want to move the America back to where it was at the height of this, where they were destroying Black people. They are taking the history out of our schools. Donald Trump said that he will give reparations to people who were injured by this quote unquote equity, this DEI that's happened. He's going to give reparations to white people. So they're taking away everything that we've been able to build over the last several years. But that was all, I think it was all fake anyway. So what we've been comfortable with is we've been comfortable with this idea of equity and equality that they have said that we've had, but it's all been, it hasn't been real. And so what we have to do is we have to stop and we have to come back from this bullshit of I'm this, I'm that, and separating ourselves. Just like Dr. Alicia said, that's Eurocentric thinking, that rugged individualistic thinking that we have taken on as Black people. We are not that way. That's not in our heart. That's not in our spirit. We got to work together. The African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. That's what we really have to do. And Dr. Lene said, she doesn't think that we're going to be able to do it. And I understand why she says that is because we can't even get on one accord about who we are because we don't even know. But I say, if you can do it in small groups, that's the solution. So the things that I'm doing with my people, I help Black women, right? Because there's an African proverb that says, when you help a woman, when you teach a woman, you teach an individual. When you teach a man, you teach an individual. But when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. So I have something where I'm helping Black women, where I'm helping us to build wealth, right? So we have a community of Black women who are just pouring into each other, who are doing it. And then Boyce and I, we have the B1 Real Estate Mastery Training where I'm teaching Black people, men and women, how to become investors. But we're doing that collectively. I'm teaching them how to practice collective economics and buy real estate together as a community. And then I have the Grow Your Money Club, which is for everybody, where I'm teaching people how to build their businesses succinctly through different phases of that developmental process. So even if you can't reach everybody, even if we can't get on one accord as an entire people, what you can do as you and then affect your family, because I have conversations with my children about money. And then what you do with this small group of people that you're related to, maybe your extended family, and then your community, it can work wonders. We can move mountains. We can make magic happen if we start with us. So we got to get that, what we ain't going to do, out of our heads. And we have to be the ones who do it. And when we do it, that's when we can effectuate change. Because all this other bullshit is coming to attack us. And just like that Forbes article said that in 2053, our net worth is going to be a zero if we don't change things, if we don't get on one accord, if we don't grab a hold of right now. And I think now is the best time, because now that little parachute that we had has been taken away from us. And they're very intentional about their willingness to destroy us as Black people. So if we don't get on one accord right now, we will be destroyed. So y'all can keep in the comments arguing about I'm Black and I ain't this and you ain't that and you light skin and you dark skin and you from Africa and I'm from India and all that other bullshit that white supremacy has ingrained in us. We got to get on one accord, and we got to get this money, and we got to build our community. Fuck all them white people, and let's do for us. Where can you find me? Everywhere. I am Constance Carter. Thank you guys. I appreciate the dialogue with my sisters today. I love y'all. You know, I love Black people. I really, 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 really do. And I've dedicated my life to helping us, to building us. You know, I really love to see y'all winning. I love to see what you're doing, Dr. Alicia. I love to see what you're doing, Athena, Lala, and Dr. Lynette. I love what you guys are doing in this world. You guys are making an impact and you're making a difference. Continue to do the damn thing like y'all doing, because it's changing the world. And let's continue to have these dialogues. Okay. So where can you find us? Every day, same time, same bat channel. If you want to watch us live, please, if you want to get notifications, text the word Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS to 87948. And if you want to learn how to grow your money and not blow your money, because if you blow your money, it ain't a damn thing funny, go to flynubianmoney.com. And remember, we on Spotify, y'all. So if you can't watch us, listen to us. Go to Spotify and search for Fly Nubian Money. We are here every day, and we just want to talk about things that matter to us as Black people. The biggest thing for us all is about a solution. We ain't here just to gossip or chat about some bullshit. We're here to actually make change in the world. That's why we have these dialogues. That's why we're here today. So I thank all of you guys. Thank y'all for the highly intellectually stimulating conversation that we always have every time we come on here every day of the week. I appreciate y'all, and we appreciate you for your whack ass comments and your good comments too. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.